All right. Hey, everyone, and welcome back to the deep dive for your, daily dose of UPSC current affairs prep.
Right.
We're going to be diving into the news from February 26th, 2025, and this is part one.
Okay.
Now, remember, some of these topics might, ring a bell. If so, consider that a bonus revision session.
Yeah. Yeah.
For those of you encountering these issues for the first time, buckle up, because today's lineup is pretty diverse.
Looking forward to it.
So before we jump in, just a quick reminder to hit that like button and subscribe to stay ahead of the curve in your UPSC journey.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's jump right in.
Mm-hmm.
Got some fascinating stuff to unpack today. A possible game changer in the treatment of a devastating genetic condition. A public health mystery linked to a common food staple.
Uh-huh.
India stepping up on the world stage with humanitarian aid.
Okay.
And even some unusual activity in a unique Indian ecosystem. Ready to dive in.
Let's do it.
Our first up, we're tackling spinal muscular atrophy, or SMA.
Okay.
Now, this one might be familiar from your textbooks, but a recent development has made it headline news.
Right. SMA is a serious genetic disorder that affects the motor neurons responsible for muscle movement. The impact can range from, mild weakness to severe disability, and sadly, it's a leading genetic cause of death in infants and children.
It's heartbreaking, and for a long time, the outlook was pretty bleak. But this new research, this in-womb treatment,
Right.
it's got a ray of hope, isn't it?
It really is. The fact that scientists have successfully treated SMA in a baby before birth could revolutionize how we approach this condition. It's still early days, but the potential is enormous.
Yeah, huge potential.
Yeah.
Okay, so from a medical breakthrough to a bit of a public health mystery,
Okay.
we're switching gears to talk about selenium.
All right.
Now, I know what you're thinking, selenium, seriously.
Yeah.
But bear with me, there's a fascinating twist here.
I'm intrigued.
What?
Selenium is a trace mineral that's essential for a bunch of bodily functions.
Okay.
Thyroid health, DNA synthesis protection against cell damage, you name it. We usually get it through our diet, but too much of a good thing, as they say.
Exactly. And that's where the news from Maharashtra comes in. There's been a strange wave of mass hair loss.
Oh, wow.
And guess what's being investigated as a potential cause? High selenium levels in wheat.
Really?
Talk about an unexpected connection.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really underscores how even essential nutrients can have adverse effects in excessive amounts.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that balance is key when it comes to our health.
Everything in moderation.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's shift gears to the global stage now. We're going to talk about Honduras, a Central American nation that's recently been hit hard by Tropical Storm Snow.
And this is where we see India stepping up in a big way. The Indian government has sent humanitarian aid to Honduras, showcasing its commitment to global assistance. It's a great example of India's growing role in international affairs.
It is, and for those of you brushing up on your geography,
Yeah.
Honduras is bordered by Guatemala, El Salvador, and Nicaragua. It's got a diverse landscape, mountains, rainforests, coastlines, and unfortunately it's prone to these devastating tropical storms.
Precisely. And its location and reliance on agriculture make it particularly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, which is something we'll see play out in other news stories as well.
Yeah, definitely something to watch. All right, let's zoom back to India now and head down south to the Kalakkad Mundanthurai Tiger Reserve, or KMTR.
Right.
This one's for our wildlife enthusiasts and anyone interested in conservation efforts.
Okay, so
KMTR is a biodiversity hotspot home to tigers, leopards, elephants, and a whole host of other incredible species. It's located in the Western Ghats of Tamil Nadu and has the unique distinction of being called the River Sanctuary. You've got 14 rivers originating within its boundaries.
that's incredible. 14 rivers. And there's some important news from KMTR.
Okay, what's on?
They've just started their post-monsoon wildlife census, which helps track the health and population dynamics of the various species in the reserve.
Right. This data is absolutely vital for conservation efforts. It tells us which species are thriving, which are struggling.
And helps inform management decisions to protect this precious ecosystem.
For sure. Okay, from protecting wildlife to safeguarding India's culinary heritage.
All right.
Let's talk about the Spices Board of India, an institution that plays a crucial role in regulating and promoting our nation's spice exports.
Oh, yeah. The Spices Board is kind of like a guardian for the quality and authenticity of Indian spices. They're responsible for developing and regulating the export of a whopping 52 different spices.
52. It's a lot of spices.
Oh,
And they've been in the news recently because they're working with the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India,
right.
or FSSAI, to strengthen regulations in the spice industry.
That's right. They're taking a proactive approach to ensure food safety and protect India's reputation as the land of spices in the global market.
It's a big responsibility.
Mm.
Now let's take a quick detour to Chennai, where a special guest has made a surprise appearance. Birdwatchers, get your binoculars ready. We're talking about the Slender-Billed Gull.
Oh, cool. This medium-sized seabird isn't usually found in urban areas, so its recent sighting in Chennai's Pallikaranai Marshland is pretty exciting. It's a reminder that even our bustling cities can be havens for wildlife, especially migratory birds.
Absolutely. Speaking of Pallikaranai,
Yeah.
it's a fascinating wetland in its own right.
Right.
It's a Ramsar site partly below sea level and acts as a flood buffer for Chennai.
Yeah.
Talk about an ecological multitasker.
Absolutely. And this unexpected bird sighting really underscores the importance of protecting urban wetlands. They're not just havens for biodiversity.
Right.
They play a crucial role in the health of our cities as well.
You know, it's all connected.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's move on to our next story.
Okay.
You know, it's amazing how these seemingly unrelated stories, like a rare bird sighting a spice board, cracking down on regulations, a distant nation struggling after a storm, they all paint a picture of how interconnected our world really is.
That's so true. And for our UPSC aspirants, it's a great reminder that everything is linked. Environmental issues, global events, public health.
Even the food on our plates.
Speaking of food, let's zoom out to a water body that's facing a rather alarming problem. The Caspian Sea. It's the largest inland water body on Earth, nestled between Europe and Asia.
And 5 countries share its shores: Russia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and Iran. And it's not just a geographical marvel.
Right.
It's also a vital source of oil, natural gas, and of course caviar.
And here's the catch. The Caspian Sea is shrinking rapidly. Scientists are sounding the alarm because this could have major ecological and geopolitical consequences.
It's a stark reminder of how climate change and human activities can impact even the most massive ecosystems. And speaking of geopolitical tensions, our next story takes us to Russia, where they've deployed a new weapon on combat patrol routes: the RS-24 Yars missile.
Oh, okay.
These missiles are intercontinental ballistic missiles, or ICBMs, and they're capable of carrying nuclear warheads.
So these are serious. It's a development that's definitely raising eyebrows in the international community.
These Yars missiles are a serious piece of technology. They're designed to evade missile defense systems, and their deployment is a pretty significant move in the current geopolitical climate.
Yeah, it highlights the delicate balance of power in the world and the potential consequences of military advancements.
Okay, let's shift gears back to India and another unique ecosystem: the Bhitarkanika National Park in Odisha. Think mangroves, saltwater crocodiles, olive ridley sea turtles, a true haven for biodiversity.
It's actually India's second largest mangrove ecosystem after the Sundarbans, and it's a designated Ramsar site highlighting its global ecological importance.
But there's some strange behavior happening in Bhitarkanika. Migratory birds that usually spend the winter there have started leaving much earlier than usual.
Oh, interesting.
This early departure has scientists puzzled. It could be a sign of changing environmental conditions, shifts in migratory patterns, or a combination of factors. More research is needed to understand what's driving this phenomenon. It's a reminder that even seemingly remote areas like Bhitarkanika are not immune to the impacts of global changes. And now for our final story. Let's bring it back to something we all encounter every day: black plastic. You know those food containers, trays, utensils? They're everywhere.
But here's the thing. A lot of black plastic is made from recycled electronic waste, and that can be a problem. Recent studies have found that toxic chemicals from those electronics, things like heavy metals and flame retardants, can leach into food.
Especially when heated. It's a pretty disturbing thought, especially considering how much black plastic we use in our kitchens.
And the health risks associated with these chemicals are serious endocrine disruption, reproductive issues, and even links to obesity and diabetes.
Wow, it really makes you rethink those convenient takeaway containers, doesn't it?
It definitely does.
Right.
This is a reminder that what seems convenient and harmless might actually have hidden dangers, and we need to be aware of the materials we use in our everyday lives.
Absolutely. So there you have it, folks. Part 2 of our February 26th News Deep Dive. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the depths of a shrinking sea to the potential dangers lurking in our kitchens.
What's really fascinating to me is how these seemingly separate stories all connect back to some of the biggest challenges facing our world today: climate change, geopolitical tensions, technological advancements, and the impact of human activities on our planet.
Absolutely. And for our dedicated UPSC aspirants,
Mm-hmm.
this is where the rubber meets the road. You need to be able to connect the dots, analyze these issues from multiple angles, and understand how they impact India's role in the world.
Remember, the UPSC exam isn't just about memorizing facts and figures. It's about demonstrating a deep understanding of complex issues, critical thinking skills, and the ability to see the bigger picture.
So as you continue your UPSC journey, keep these connections in mind. Don't just absorb the information, analyze it, question it, and think about its implications for India's future.
And don't be afraid to challenge conventional wisdom. Sometimes the most insightful answers lie in asking the right questions and looking at things from a fresh perspective.
Now, before we wrap up, let's leave our listeners with a final thought. We've talked about global challenges, scientific breakthroughs, and even the potential threats hiding in plain sight. But in the face of all this, what role can an individual play? How can you, armed with knowledge and a desire to make a difference, navigate this complex and ever-changing world?
That's a powerful question, and I think the answer lies in informed action. It's about making conscious choices in our daily lives, engaging in meaningful conversations, advocating for positive change, and never losing sight of the fact that even small actions can have a ripple effect.
Beautifully said. So, dear listeners, keep diving deep, keep those minds sharp, and remember that you have the power to shape the future.
And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the Deep Dive for your daily dose of UPSC insights.
Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the world around you.
You know, from a shrinking sea to potential dangers in our kitchen, it's a lot to think about.
It is so much to unpack. But you know what really strikes me?
What's that?
Is that even though these stories seem so different, right? Like, on the surface, they're about totally separate things.
Yeah.
They all kind of tie back to these huge global challenges that we're all facing. You know, climate change, geopolitical tensions,
Right.
the impact of technology.
It's all connected.
It's all connected. And I think for our UPSC aspirants out there, this is really where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to see these connections.
Yeah.
You know, analyze these issues from different angles, understand how they affect India's place in the world. It's not just about memorizing facts anymore.
Exactly. The UPSC exam is all about demonstrating a deep understanding of these complex issues. You need those critical thinking skills and the ability to see the bigger picture.
So as you're going through those study materials and, prepping for your exams, keep those connections in mind. Don't just absorb the information.
Right.
Analyze it. Question it.
Think about the implications.
Exactly. How does this affect India's future? And don't be afraid to challenge the, conventional wisdom. Sometimes the best answers come from asking the right question.
Yeah, looking at things from a fresh perspective.
Exactly. All right, so before we wrap things up, let's leave our listeners with a final thought. We've talked about these big global challenges. We've seen some amazing scientific breakthroughs, but we've also seen some potential dangers lurking in unexpected places. So in light of all this, what role can we as individuals play? How can we use our knowledge and our desire to make a difference to navigate this complex world? Because it's changing all the time.
That is the question, isn't it? And I think the answer comes down to informed action, making those conscious choices in our daily lives, engaging in those meaningful conversations, really advocating for positive change, and never forgetting that even the smallest actions can create a ripple effect.
Beautifully said. So to all our listeners out there, keep diving deep, keep those minds sharp, and remember, you have the power to shape the future.
Absolutely. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to The Deep Dive for your daily dose of UPSC insights.
Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.